Hello and welcome back to Own Guard Solutions. Today we're going to be continuing our series on field stripping and cleaning firearms. Today I made the decision to clean this CZ P-10S. It is their compact in their P-10 series. As you may or may not know, they have their F as in Frank, which is their full size, coming in at about a 4.5-inch barrel. They have their C, which is their compact, is with about a 4-inch barrel, and then they have this S, which is their subcompact, as you might guess, with a 3.5-inch barrel and a 12-in-1 shot capacity. And I really like this gun. To have a shorter barrel and the shorter grip, the recoil is still very manageable on this firearm. And I have to say, given its size, it's very accurate, and certainly beyond accurate for any self-defense scenarios. Certainly, I like it because I can easily carry this, and you know, it's not just this firearm in particular, but I like having this subcompact because I can actually carry it appendix or at 4 o'clock, whatever, in my athletic shorts or in my athletic pants when I go walking or working out, which is fantastic. It gives me just one more option to consider carrying when I'm dressed like that. But this firearm is fantastic. It's very smooth. It's been reliable so far. The bit that I've shot it, I'd say it's probably got 200 to 300 rounds through it, maybe a few more at this point in time. So it's time for its first bath. And so that's what we're going to do here today. So stick around. Okay, we're back with the CZ P-10S, and I'll go ahead and show you again that it is empty. You can see there's no magazine. And just to open the slide, you can see down in there, hopefully, that there are no rounds in the chamber whatsoever. And so we're good to go. That's important. Anytime that we're cleaning, we want to make doubly sure, or anytime that we're handling a firearm, that it's empty and in a safe condition to use. Once I confirm that it's empty, to get ready to break this firearm down, I want to depress the trigger because the trigger needs to be all the way back in order to break this down. The next thing that I'm going to do is, and they try to describe this in the manual, but hopefully I could show you here pretty well, is I'm going to take the webbing between my thumb and my index finger, and I'm going to put that webbing in here in behind the back strap. And normally I just reach over and grab the top of the slide, but since my red dot's in the way here, I'm going to use it. There's nothing wrong. And what I have to do is just slide the slide back ever so easily. Hopefully you can see that coming there off the back end. I have to slide the slide back ever so slightly to take the pressure off the disassembly plate. And this is on most of these striker fires that are set up this way, it seems to be the same for all of them. This is an ambidextrous switch. The disassembly lever, you need to get a hold of both on. So on this hand, you're going to use your thumb, and on the other side, typically I use my index finger. So if you want to know what I'm doing as I show you this, that's what I'm doing on both sides at the same time. And I can tell you that sometimes you'll get your fingernails on there, and you know, you can tear up your fingernails pretty easily if you're not paying attention and not careful. So just a sidebar note that you may or may not be concerned about. But I'm going to reach over the top. I am going to slide that slide back ever so slightly to get the pressure off here. On both sides, I'm going to pull that lever down, the disassembly lever down, and simply let the slide go and let it go forward. And you can see the frame, and yeah, it's pretty dirty, which I'm not surprised by. And here's the underside, the inside of the slide. Next, I'm going to take the guide rod with the recoil spring out, and I simply do that by, hopefully you can see, I'm pushing forward. I'm going to exaggerate here, but I'm pushing forward on it, and then I'm lifting up the rear end of it to get it out of the front. Going to come out there, and then the barrel kind of going to do the same thing. I'm going to lift up here on the rear piece, and it'll slide forward. It's just rattling around in there. I'm going to lift up on the rear piece and at an angle pull that out. And that's as complicated as breaking down the P-10S. The good news for the P-10 series, just to mention, is that For the S, the C, and the F, they basically all use the same user manual, and you break them down all the same way. So everything that we just did, you're going to do for those others if you happen to have a C or F, and then reassembly is just reversal of what we just did, which I'll show you here in a bit. The micro, the P-10M, does have a separate user manual because it is different from the rest of the P-10 family, and it has a different method of breakdown, but you know, they're all generally about the same. So let's get started. If you've watched my previous videos, you probably think I kind of come off as a little bit of a fanboy for FrogLube, and I'm not going to lie, I'm not ashamed. I really do like the FrogLube. It's a little bit different cleaning process, as we've talked about in a couple of our other videos that I encourage you to go back and watch if you feel so inclined. But I want to be fair, so I thought as we go on this field stripping and cleaning journey, I might try to use some different things as we go along. And I've decided recently to give this Slip 2000 product line a good try. Seems like it's pretty highly reviewed, what I've heard and read about it. Apparently it's even called out specifically in some manufacturers' user manuals. It's so good for those particular firearms. I can't say to that. But I like it, and it's still kind of a two-step process. You have your solvent to get everything cleaned down and wiped out with, and then you have your what they call their SLP 2000 gun lube, which is really a glorified, which is really a CLP. I shouldn't say glorified, it is a CLP. So we're not going to have to use a lot of stuff to get things clean, but just to get started here, I'm going to take some of their solvent and I'm going to wet down everything. And what I'm going to do is give it just a minute or two to set. The gun's not super dirty, so I don't need to let it set too long, but maybe as we're spraying here. One thing I've mentioned before is we want to be careful not to drench the firearm housing back here. So it's okay if you get some of this stuff wet a little bit, but the idea is that you generally don't want to soak down the firing pin area inside your slide. But you obviously want to get it in there and get it coated up. And then I'm going to go ahead and spray the outside of my barrel, my feed ramp especially. And we're just going to let that soak a minute maybe, or a second or two. I will say too that my preference is when I do change cleaners, I like to change my microfiber towels out just so I don't get whatever mixed with whatever else that I'm normally not using. Honestly, excuse me. Honestly, when I switch back, I'm probably going to go back to FrogLube for most of my cleaning most of the time. So I at least wanted to get something new for this. And I have to say too, and I don't know if you guys, if you have cleaned a lot before or not, I have noticed too that your cleaning cloth gets so much better once you get it all gummed up with whatever you're cleaning with, just over time. I don't necessarily look to use a clean cloth every time or every so often. I like to just let it accumulate the cleaners that I've wiped off with it. To me, it just is easier to work with. I know that sounds silly, but they do seem to become more pliable, dare I say, and it just feels better. So we're going to be cleaning with a new cloth today. And then to clean out the barrel, you also know that I'm a big fan of bore snakes and whatever other generic terminology they go by. And in the spirit of transparency, this is going to be kind of a hybrid clean. We're giving the old Slip 2000 a try out today, but I am going to clean out the inside of my barrel with the liquid FrogLube. For me, with the bore snake, it's just so easy. I know how it cleans. I know how easily it cleans. I know it doesn't leave a lot of residue behind, you know, unlike some oils that you might put in your barrel to preserve them or whatever. The liquid FrogLube doesn't leave a lot behind, and so I don't have to worry about cleaning it out or punching the barrel before I go shoot the next time. So this, in fairness, is going to be kind of a hybrid. I think we've let this set long enough. I got a good old nylon brush, and I'm just going to go in here and simply get all those high traffic areas, so to speak, in the frame here. I'm going to get back here, down inside here a little bit. And as I mentioned when we tore this down, you need to pull that trigger once you make sure the firearm is clear and empty to be in the back position so you can break it down. And if by chance you're in here cleaning and the trigger gets returned home, reset, you'll just want to make sure to pull it back again to the rearward position so you can put the slide back on once again. So just wanted to note that. So I'm going to give these things a good bath, let them soak here a little bit. I'm going to scrub out the bottom of the slide here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off and do this cleaning I need to do. And we'll join back up here in a minute. Stick around. And we're back. Since we left off, I took my nylon brush and gave everything a good brushing down with the solvent on. If you remember just how dirty that frame, everything inside the frame was, it's much cleaner now. Same thing with the underside, the belly of the slide. Inside the slide is, dare I say, spotless at this point in time. So overall, I have to say I like the solvent, and you know, the solvents are pretty important, right? That's what's the first thing, your first line of defense when you go to cleaning, of getting all the lead and carbon deposits and gunpowder and whatever other types of gunk, the prior lubrication, you know, especially when it's your first time cleaning a firearm, whatever they use at the factory, you know, it's a good idea to get that stuff out of there and then get on it what you prefer to use for cleaner. And I don't know if you remember the feed ramp, but you can see, you know, the feed ramp's looking pretty good. So I'm going to set the frame and the slide aside. The recoil spring, I gave a good wipe down. It had a lot of what appeared to be factory oil on it, so I was glad to get that wiped up. As I mentioned, I am going to kind of do a hybrid here. Maybe that's viewed as cheating by some, I don't know. But what I'm going to do is get my bore snake here, and what I like to do is just take a little bit of the liquid FrogLube and put it right here where the embedded brushes are. Yeah, sometimes it drips off, but that's okay, we'll use it. And then what I'm going to do is punch this barrel simply by going through the chamber end first, staying away from the end of the barrel as I can, which is why they recommend you always go through the chamber side. And then I'm just going to pull this bore snake through. I don't know, it can't be super dirty. It's only got a few hundred rounds through it, but nonetheless, I'm going to pull this bore snake through here probably about 7 to 10 times. Take a look at it here in a minute. You know, in fairness, if I had one ding against these bore snakes is this first piece I'll show you here in a minute. So you kind of got what I call the rope end. And of course, the rope end has the embedded bristles to really do the scrubbing. And then the rope, if you will, is what, you know, pulls all that nasty stuff out. And then you got this end, which I'll call the feeder end, the feeder line, which is kind of similar to paracord in nature, I guess. It has the same feel to it. I doubt this is 500-pound plus strength, tensile strength, but it's got the weight. And I have to say, depending on how you store these and how you keep your stuff, this part can get tangled up and knotted around this part of the bore snake. That's probably the one thing that frustrates me on occasion when that happens to me, is having to unknot that to be able to get it to the point of use. I didn't really need any more, but while I'm sitting here talking, feed this thing a few more times through here. And we should be looking pretty good. Oh yeah, nice and clean, it looks like. Maybe one more time for good measure. Well, we got it broken down, might as well make sure it's clean, right? And like I said, for me, I like the FrogLube for the bores because now that I've got it done, I know that it cleans well. I know it leaves some sort of, you know, light coating of stuff behind to protect, but it's not heavy duty. It's not super oily or greasy. And I know I don't have to worry about cleaning it out before I go shoot the next time, which is nice. So just wiping this down. I go back and forth. Sometimes I'll clean out the inside of the barrel before I clean out the outside. You know, I think one way or the other, the outside's probably going to get dirty, so it doesn't really matter which way you go. But next, we're going to try to give this. We're going to give this gun lube a try out. It's their, and they have a lot of different products in their lineup, and I'm not going to pretend that I know them all, but they make some lubrications for high volume, you know, if you're shooting competition or even if you're shooting fully automatic weapons. They make some different stuff that's even better, both cleaners and CLPs, but for the type of cleaning that we were going to be doing today, I thought that this would be good enough. So I'm going to start with the slide, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open this up. I've never used their product before, and I'm going to see if let's see, do I have to take a cap off on the inside to get it to work? Yes, of course. But instead of being a paper or stick-on type, they've got a plug, which I kind of like because, you know, if you store this stuff in your cleaning kit case and whatnot, and it gets dumped over, at least with this plug, you don't have to worry about the insert. It would help if I showed you the insert that they have down in there. That's kind of nice. That's kind of nice to have. So where was I? I'm going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to dab it on. And I could probably do better if I put this on my microfiber cloth first, but bear with me. I learn as I go. So I'm just going to wipe down everything real good with this stuff. Seems to go on easy, and it's already leaving behind a nice little coating, it seems like. So we're going to do this. We're going to get everything wiped down with their CLP, their gun lube, the Slip 2000 gun lube as they call it. Pretty generic name. We're going to get everything coated real good, and then we'll come back and show you what we've done, and then move on to getting this thing lubed up, and it'll be a wrap shortly after that. Stay tuned. And we're back again with the P-10S. So since the last moment of time we were talking to you, we have now given everything a good wipe down with the Slick 2000 gun lube. Just kind of put some on everywhere, dab some on the rag to wipe in some of these places, like here inside the frame. Did wipe down the barrel really well. It came out really nice, and there's just something nice about how this gun lube leaves everything when you get through applying it and wiping it all down. It seems, dare I say, super slick, and I like that. I didn't put on a whole lot, and certainly made it a point to wipe the majority of it off, and it still just put on this thin coating of stuff, which I like. Even took apart took the recoil spring off the guide rod and wiped that down too, and put a little dab of CLP here on the spring, you know, itself where it operates, so it has a little bit of lubrication in there. So that's what I want to talk about next, and you can consult your owner's manual for exact places they recommend for you to put lubrication. I cover those, and I cover some of my own, so I don't claim that this is by the book. But what I do, and hopefully you can see here in some of the light, is you should be able to see some wear places with your firearm and know that that's the points of metal on metal, right? Which is what we want to fight against with putting lubrication on here. So any place that I see these points of wear, and hopefully you can see here, there towards the end, you can really see some, you know, wear, especially for how little this firearm's been shot so far, which tells me, you know, we probably need to get some better lube in here. Hopefully this will be. So what I like to do is I like to just dab a little bit on my fingers and touch it on those places that I know has got metal on metal, and make sure it's good and coated. And I don't subscribe to lubrication should be so little that it comes off looking and feeling dry, but you also don't want to gum up everything with a lot of oil, especially, or even these CLPs, because a lot of oil and CLP, you know, a lot of lubrication can be, too much lubrication is what I'm trying to say, can be a bad thing. It's the one case where lubrication can be a bad thing. But I am wanting to get it on there. I don't care if it looks wet. I don't want to cake it on. Hopefully somebody won't criticize me for leaving even that much. But I do want to get those hot spots, so to speak, and know that I've got enough on there. And look, if you're shooting a lot, you're probably going to be cleaning more frequently than not. So, you know, if you got too much on here, wipe it off before you reassemble, or if it starts oozing out everywhere when you're shooting, that's a good sign you've got way too much oil or lubrication in spots. So you want to wipe some of that down. And again, I'm not worried about it having a wet look, but I'm also not caking it up in there. One of the places, and this one's not too bad yet, it doesn't look like, but right here is I like to put a little dab of lubrication there, because that's typically, at least in my experience, has been where the barrel will rub a little bit up inside the slide there. So right there, just forward of the ejection port, I like to put a little bit. I'll put some here. And again, I'm not doing a lot. Just looking for any extra wear spaces, maybe here on the back of the firing pin. And again, I'm not dousing the firing pin. I'm not trying to put oil and lubrication or even a lot of solvent down back in here behind or around the firing pin. The firing pin needs to be kept dry. So I'm not looking to douse that. And then I'll take my, sometimes, or a lot of times I should say, I'll take my finger and just kind of scrape off the CLP or lubrication that I might have on my fingertip on the edge of the railing here. So I'm sure to get, hopefully you can see kind of what I'm doing here. And that might be a little too much. Spread that out a little bit. And look, if I get what I think too much, you know, it's okay to wipe it off. Again, you want to make sure you get those points of contact covered. Certainly anything that the manual calls out needing to be lubed up, you want to do that. And you just don't want to use too much. You shouldn't see stuff running all in here, because if you have a lot of lubrication, a lot of CLP, a lot of oil inside your firearm, as you shoot it and as that carbon and spent lead and gunpowder, whatever is in here, it will gum up and get into that oil and lubrication and, you know, basically make a dirty mess. And that can hamper the performance of your firearm and even cause misfeeds and stuff like that. So you certainly want to keep your lubrication to a minimum. So now I think we're ready for, and I'm going to put the cap back in here because I do really like that. I don't know if other makers do something similar, but if they don't, they should. I do really like that, and it's the first time I've seen it. Yeah, so yeah, I'm like a kid in a candy shop. So like I said, reassembly is just a reversal of disassembly. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my barrel, and I do want to make sure, and it looks like it's gone forward, I do want to make sure my trigger is to the rearward position. Remember I mentioned that earlier. And you know, just going to go back to my microfiber cloth here. You can see I've already got, you know, yes, there's some dirt in there certainly, but some of this is the CLP. And over time, I really like that because you don't have to keep dumping on so much lubrication or CLP. Once you get your towels nice, you know, your rags nice and broken in, you can just kind of wipe down everything. And there's so much collected in the towel that it just makes it easier to coat and you don't have to use so much new. But anyway, my personal preference. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to reverse putting the barrel in. We're going to start with the muzzle in first, inserting it down there forward, kind of at an angle, and then it's just going to drop in. That's as easy, that's as difficult as that piece gets. We're then going to take the guide rod and recoil spring. We're going to put this end up inside here first, and then you'll see, I should have shown you before here. Now everything's falling apart, that's okay, it takes a second. You'll see this little dimple. That's where this end of the guide rod's going to go. So once I get this in first, I need to do that in first. I'm going to push this forward and be sure to hold on to it, because if you let that go, you're probably going to lose your guide rod somewhere if you don't. And there you go. That's as much as it takes. I just want to get that. You'll sometimes hear it click, but you can see that that back end of the guide rod now is fitting in that little crescent I tried showing you a minute ago. And the slide is now back together with its barrel. Now there's a little bit of oil coming out. We'll wipe that down here in a minute. So now that I've got everything back together and ready to go, we're ready to mount the slide back to the frame. Again, on this firearm, we want to make sure the trigger's back. And I think, honestly, most striker fires seem to be that way. And then what I'm looking to do is line up these outside, guardrail slots, if you will, to mount up with these inside the frame here. And that's where there's so much wear, is the piece mounting up to the slide. So I'm going to line those back, and then I'm just going to pull it all the way back and let it go. And with that, we should be good to go. Now, obviously it's not loaded, and we should not have introduced any magazines or ammunition in our area since we're still working. But I can take a quick peek, make sure it is empty. But basically what I'm doing is I'm making sure the slide is working the way it's supposed to be, and it appears to be. And the next thing I'm going to do, making sure that I know that the firearm's unloaded, is I'm going to pull the trigger. And it sounds like, let it reset, yep, hear the click, and a pull again. And it sounds like the firing pin's operating business as usual. So we're in business. And that is it. That is cleaning the CZ P-10S. If you like what you've seen here today, be sure to like this video down below, subscribe to our channel. We'd love you to follow us. You can stay up to date anytime we put out new videos. For those of you that might be familiar with us or not familiar with us, we're just getting started here on YouTube, so we've just got some videos. We're kind of experimenting, I think it would be safe to say, on what works for our audience and what you guys want to see more of. So let us know in the comments if we've missed something, which I've been known to do, and there's been people call me out in the other videos, which is great. Something I've misnamed or used an Allen wrench instead of a torque wrench when I should have. If you see something we missed, let us know. We're happy to address it. We're not ashamed to own it when we mess up. But if you like it, like us, be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. See you soon.